Welcome. This is Community Matters with your host, Becky Steinbrunner, who is, I'm certain, stuck in traffic trying to get in from the Aptos area. So, Michael Olson here on the controls. Today we're going to be, Becky's going to be making a presentation about the South of Market construction activity here in Santa Cruz, California. That's going to be exciting, don't you think? So buckle up for a ride, and we're curious to know what you think about this development. And the phone lines are going to be open today at 831-265-5050. That's 831-265-5050. And I'm just as we speak, I'm loading this up, and we'll be able to talk, and talk we shall. So let's see, Steven Start Show. And there we go. Ready. Connect. Okay, we are ready to go.
Welcome.
Yep, there we are. This is Community Matters with Becky Steinbrunner. And guess who just walked in the door? It's Becky Steinbrunner. Hi, Becky. Did you have a good drive in from Aptos?
It was a drive.
Well, here. It was a drive, she said. Well, I can imagine it was. Well, I brought you some gifts here.
Well, bless your heart. Thank
for
you.
you and Pure Heart. And here's your headsets, and you are ready on the air.
Oh, well, thank you.
You
very
bet.
Much.
Pleased to serve. And this is going to be a very interesting show.
Indeed. Indeed. Michael, thank you so much. And you've got me all hooked up and ready to go. Bless your heart. Thank you. I hope you
are
can
on
stay.
a roll.
You can stay, I hope.
I'll stay for a couple of minutes, yeah?
Okay, let me just plug this in so I can get the recording. And, thank you. Welcome to Community Matters. I am honored to be your host here for the next couple of hours, and we have a very interesting program coming up. For those of you who have not been aware, Santa Cruz City is proposing to really expand what they're doing downtown. If you've driven down through Santa Cruz, San Jose, it's beginning to look like, you are seeing some amazing changes, and many of us are quite shocked. So today I'm honored to have on the phone with me here Mr. Frank Barron. Let me bring you on, Frank. Hello, Frank. Can you hear us?
Hi, Becky.
Excellent. Can you just talk a little bit more and I'll get your sound adjusted? Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes.
All right. Very good. That's excellent. Thank you. I'm sorry. I'm a little bit flustered.
Well, may I ask an opening question?
Got stuck in traffic. So, Frank Barron, you have, in my eyes, you are one of the exemplary activists and model citizens in our community with all that you have done, getting a grassroots effort to try to limit building height and increase affordable housing percentages with Measure M. That was all grassroots, no paid signature gatherers there. And what you have done and what you continue to do in our community is really laudable, and I want to thank you right off the gate here.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And we did have some paid signature gatherers, but very few and not very highly paid.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Frank, would you please begin by introducing yourself to our listening audience?
Sure. Yeah. My name is Frank Barron. I am a retired land use planner, had a 30-year career in land use planning throughout the Monterey Bay area, including the city of Santa Cruz and most recently the county of Santa Cruz. And so when this project was being proposed, I was one of the many people who were pretty concerned about what they were talking about with the, especially with the height of the buildings they were talking about. the plan is this downtown plan expansion, it's called, has gone through a few iterations, but initially they were talking about 17 to 22-story buildings. We were like, hey, hold on a minute. And it was something that was not being well advertised around the city. Like,
Yes.
people didn't know anything about it. So anyway, yeah, that's what was sort of the genesis of Measure M, and that failed at the ballot box, unfortunately, but we are still fighting the good fight against this downtown plan expansion. I can talk a little bit about what that is, if the current iteration of it, anyway.
Yes,
if you like.
please do.
Okay, so what they're talking about is they have this existing downtown plan that extends basically from about the clock tower down through along Pacific Avenue on both sides, about a block or 2 blocks each way of Pacific Avenue, going down to Cathcart and Laurel. So that's about the extent of the downtown plan right now. And this proposal is to tack on 29 acres on the south side of Laurel. Then it would extend all the way
29
down.
acres.
It would extend all the way down Pacific and in front, going down to Beach Hill, and then curving over towards the traffic circle at Depot Park, and then going upward towards the police station, a couple blocks. So anyway, it's a big area, and what they're talking about is, a lot of the things they're talking about, I am not personally against. I like the idea of keeping the Santa Cruz Warriors here by building them a new arena. I don't necessarily like the 1,600 new units that they want to build, but I understand that the state is requiring us to build a lot more housing, and that the existing zoning, even if there was no downtown plan expansion, would allow that amount of development anyway. So I've come to I realize that is in the cards no matter what happens down there. The new state laws allow this that type of development with the existing zoning, and so we're going to be getting high-rise or medium-rise development no matter what down in that area. I'm just concerned, and a lot of people that I work with are concerned, that we not give the developers the opportunity and the entitlement really to go quite a bit higher than 4 to 6 or 8 stories, which is what they can do now. If this plan goes forward as they're proposing, there is the possibility, because of those state laws, particularly AB 1287, which is the 100% density bonus law, there's a possibility that if you add that on to the existing zoning, that you could get, you can get the 6 to 8 stories. But if they upzone it as they're proposing in this new plan, then you add on the AB 1287 density bonus, all of a sudden now you can go 12, 15, even 20 or more stories.
Oh,
and so
man.
that's what we're concerned about. So we're hoping that the city council will see the light and decide to not raise the height limits and the density limits, keep them where they are now. You're still going to get your 1,600 units. You're still going to get your Warrior Stadium, but we are hopeful that that we don't give developers the entitlement, and it's really a permanent entitlement. It's not something they can undo. Once they got it, the state law doesn't allow you to downzone. So we want Santa Cruz to retain its character as much as possible, but we understand that there's going to be change, and that we just want to keep that change at 6 to 8 stories or 4 to 8 stories instead of 12 to 20 stories.
Yeah. How tall, just for the listening audience, we're all watching what's being built there now in downtown Santa Cruz. How tall is that, most of it?
Okay, like the Anton Pacific, which is where the old Taco Bell used to be, that's 6 stories. So if you double that, that's 12 stories, and that's kind of what the kind of the range that they're talking about in the downtown plan expansion area. That would be one of the target options, to have buildings twice as tall as Anton Pacific. The ones that are being built along Front Street, those are 7 and 8 stories.
Wow. And were they able to go higher because of zoning or because of density bonus?
Density bonus, and that was with a 50% density bonus, which is the
Wow.
older version. Now, if they had done it, now they could have gone quite a bit higher. They could go 100% density bonus, so they could have gone, almost twice as well, maybe not twice as tall as they are now, but close to that.
Go ahead,
So
Michael.
yeah, we're talking 16 stories maybe.
Wow.
May I ask a question with respect to where did the impetus come from to turn downtown Santa Cruz into a Chinese ghost city?
The 2012 general plan, they did some upzoning. At the time, they did not anticipate that the state would have these density bonus laws that came into effect after that. So they upzoned it, to have 4, 5-story buildings maybe. But then with the state density bonus, now they can go 8, 10, or they can go 8 with the 50% density bonus. They could probably go 12 to 16 with the 100% density bonus.
So who passed a density bonus that said Santa Cruz should be as dense as...
State legislature.
And for the listeners who may be just waking up and seeing what's happening here in Santa Cruz City, can you explain what's a density bonus? What does that mean?
It allows the developer, the idea behind it is to increase the total number of housing units available. So with market forces, rents would, theoretically come down. It also is an incentive to provide more affordable or below market rate units within the development. So in order to get the density bonus, you have to hit a target number of below market rate units within that building. So that's kind of the impetus behind it.
Yeah, but it actually ends up diluting the actual number of affordable units within these large developments by letting the developer balloon up the number. I remember you and Keresha talking about that in the Measure M. Do you want to talk about that a little bit here?
Yeah, I mean, with the 100% density bonus, they can get a net 15% below market rate. That's kind of what would allow the developer to do twice as many units, basically, as what normally would be allowed under current zoning. So they would have to do, say, 15% would have to be very low income, and then another 15% would have to be moderate income, and then that would be on the base number of units. So then when you double it, it waters it down to, instead of 30%, it waters it down to 15% net affordable. So it is something, but it's not going to meet the need of a lot of the people, the lower income folks in our town. These are, the lucky few will get those. And the folks who are living on the street, they don't even qualify to get to the very low income level. That's like going to be like $60,000-$70,000 a year income.
It seems like these are all college dormitories. They don't provide for automobile parking or vehicle parking anywhere.
Yeah, that's a contention, isn't it, Frank?
Yeah, that's one of the other incentives that the state has authorized, is that you don't have to provide parking in a lot of these situations where you're close enough to transit, high quality transit. So there's a definition of that. And some of these are those ones being built now are right around the new transit center, the new metro center that they're building. So if they are students, they will be able to jump on that bus right up to campus, and they theoretically wouldn't need a car, and they might have like an electric bike or something they could use to do other things, get around. But having most people, non-students anyway, do require a car, at least one car per unit, and so there's no actual requirement that they provide parking. A lot of the developers want to provide parking because they know that it makes the unit more marketable.
Yeah, and isn't there some mixed use in the bottom level? Usually there is, like shopping or something.
Yeah, they usually are going to be required to have the first floor be commercial.
And what about the parking for all the people driving in to go to the Warriors games in this arena?
Yeah, I mean, that is an issue. Currently, when the Warriors play in their current stadium, people do come from out of the area or out of the city, and they drive in and they park in the parking garages, and then they do eat dinner downtown and stuff before the games, and so there is a bump in downtown business when those games happen.
I'm aware that next Tuesday, the Santa Cruz City Council will begin reviewing the environmental impact report for this south of Laurel. Thank you, Michael. Michael Olson's leaving the studio. Thank you so much,
Okay.
Michael. The City Council will be reviewing next Tuesday night the environmental impact report for this south of Laurel downtown expansion plan. Can you describe what that's going to mean and how that will go for the listeners and how they might get involved?
Right. Well, it's not just the environmental impact report they're considering. They are considering the entire project. This is going to be, they're going to be voting to approve the entire rezoning of that 29 acres. And so we're hoping that they choose one of the lower intensity alternatives that's outlined in the EIR, in the environmental impact report. And that is alternative one, the reduced project alternative. And so that would keep zoning as it is now. And like I was describing, it would be mostly, between 4 and 8 story buildings. It would allow for a new Warrior Stadium to be built, and a lot of the infrastructure improvements they're talking about in the plan. So we're hoping that they select alternative one, and then there's this thing called the downtown density bonus, which is a city version of the density bonus, as opposed to the state density bonus. And the downtown density bonus is a little bit convoluted. If your listeners weren't confused already about the state density bonus, so you have this downtown density bonus, and that has option A and an option B. So option A would allow 12-story buildings. Option B would allow 8-story buildings, essentially. So it would top it out. So and the idea behind the downtown density bonus is to boost the number of affordable units being built to 20% net. And so we think that option B is okay. I mean, we have some problems with it, but we're willing to, live with that one. Option A, 12-story buildings, we think that's too big. That's twice as big as the Anton Pacific. We think that's just too big for Santa Cruz, at least now. And, if they want to do it in the future, maybe they sometime in the future that could happen. But we think at this point, that we should just, allow 8 stories as being kind of the max. So alternative one, option B only. Get rid of option A on the downtown density bonus. That's what we're promoting.
Wow. This is a lot.
Yeah. So, and in the environmental impact report, you mentioned, it's very problematic. It has a lot of holes in it. We think that it doesn't satisfy the legal requirements of the California Environmental Quality Act. In particular, it doesn't. It gives real short shrift to that density, the 100% density bonus law. It didn't really analyze that in any meaningful way. And so we asked for that to happen. It never happened. And so now we do have an issue with that. So we're going to be asking that the city council, revise the EIR to fully analyze the 100% density bonus. That's AB 1287. And then recirculate the environmental impact report.
And
recirculate it for comments and then, reconsideration.
Yes. Reconsideration and recirculate.
We'll be asking for them to do that, but right now the staff recommendation is just, certify it and as good to go, and then approve the rezoning and the general plan amendment for adopting this downtown plan expansion. So we'll see if that happens. If they go for alternative one, if option B only, we could probably live with that. So we'll see what happens on Tuesday.
Yeah. The thing that I saw in this is that there is a statement of overriding considerations. And
That's right.
Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, I mean, that's something that can happen with any environmental impact report. So the decision-making body they have to certify the environmental impact report, and the environmental impact report has to identify any significant, unavoidable significant impacts. And in order for those the project to still be approved, even though it has these significant impacts, unavoidable impacts, they would have to adopt the findings of overriding economic consideration that you refer to. And so that's just something that is done normally, oftentimes with EIRs.
Yeah.
So the decision-making body has to basically, it has to acknowledge that those impacts are there, and sorry, nothing we can do about it. We're going to approve the project anyway.
Oh, well, huh.
Yeah.
But from what I saw, it's a loss of historic structures, and also
You're right.
a lot of people losing their homes, like 100 people. Their homes would be bulldozed, essentially. Am I correct?
Right. But I believe so. Yeah, I don't recall the exact number, but we believe that there's a lot more. There are a lot more impacts than what they specified when they take into consideration the 100% density bonus. So we think that there's going to if they redo the EIR, there's going to be more than just those significant impacts.
Yeah, yeah. How do people best and most effectively address the city council on their thoughts about this, Frank?
Showing up to the city council meeting on Tuesday night, this coming Tuesday, the 13th, at 7 p.m. is when this item is going to be heard. Would be great. Having people there is important. Submitting comments through email to the city council. You can go to the website and see where to submit your comments. I think the deadline is 5 p.m. on Monday, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
So the day before. So you have the weekend, to formulate your comments. We hope to get a good showing. Just to let the city council know how you feel. Particularly, it's important to if you live within the city, to notify your representative on the city council. As you know, the city council is done by districts now, so each geographic area of the county has their own city council rep, and so find out who that is, and make sure that they know how you feel about this.
And you can find that on the Santa Cruz City Council website, I assume?
That's right.
Districts?
Yeah.
Who is the council member for this particular area of Santa Cruz?
Scott Newsom.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And then the mayor serves at large, so it's always good to have him roped into your letters as well, because he represents the entire city.
And that was Mayor Fred Keeley, correct?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that it is interesting that on the same evening, but earlier in the day, there is item number 18, a consultant's report by A.P. Triton talking about the risks in Santa Cruz City that the fire department has to address. And it shows maps of areas where liquefaction is a problem. It's this very area we're discussing here. It shows maps of flood hazards. It's this very area we're discussing, and maps of tsunami inundation areas. So that might be something that people could speak to, especially those kinds of risks.
Exactly, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we did in our comment letters on the environmental impact report, we delve into all of those areas, some level of detail.
Yeah.
And I believe that our comment letters are available. You have to dig for them, but they are available on the staff report and some of the attachments for the May 13th meeting. I think it's item 23 is this item, the downtown plan expansion, but then there's a number of links to different documents. And so, but anyway, all those issues you just mentioned are super important, and we did highlight those in our environmental impact report comments.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to thank you for taking the time to read through that voluminous document. I know many people did. I've seen some of the comments. I know that you are limited on time, Frank. Do you have a couple minutes more, or do you need to clear
Yeah, just
out
a
and
couple minutes more would be, I think would be fine.
Okay, thank you very much. For those of you who
Sure.
are just tuning in to Community Matters, thank you. We are honored to have here on the phone Mr. Frank Barron, who is one of the many people working tirelessly to address this downtown, Santa Cruz City downtown expansion plan known as South of Laurel, or SOLA. And it is amazing to see what is being proposed for this area of Santa Cruz. If you have not been through downtown Santa Cruz recently, take a field trip. And as Frank has just said, depending on how the city council votes next Tuesday evening at 7 p.m., when they begin hearing this, the buildings in downtown Santa Cruz could be even higher, up to 16 or 18 stories high. So, Frank, I wonder if you can talk. I received a notice from a listener before the program saying that the Planning Commission, well, she had 2 points to make. That, first of all, the environmental impact report was very rushed. People really didn't have a lot of time to look through it, sufficient time. And also that one of the planning commissioners, Rachel Dan, had an alternate motion that failed. Do you want to take any time to address those issues in the couple minutes that you've got here?
Yeah, I would agree that this whole process is really being rushed. I mean, it's kind of shocking. They're pushing it through without, a lot of people knowing that a lot of the publications, newspapers don't seem to, be picking up the story. And we're all wondering why they're trying to push this through so quickly.
Yeah.
And one of the things may be this new developments being proposed down where Ace Hardware is,
Oh, yeah.
bordered by Laurel, Pacific and Front, that shopping center, that little strip mall that used to have, had Kinko's, it had Walgreens, and now it has Ace Hardware. And then on the other side, I think it's used to have the Saturn Cafe, and now it has like
Yes.
a Cruise Brewery or something like that. So that entire lot, including the parking lot, is proposed for a big old 8-story, 85-foot tall building. The entire lot would be covered
Wow.
by this huge structure. Some Dallas, Texas developers is proposing it. Anyway, so I think that could be one of the reasons why they're pushing to really get this thing done quickly, because that would only be allowed, I think, if this passes. Anyway, so that it's shocking how fast they're trying to push this through. And then as far as Rachel Dan's comment, her motion that was not seconded, that is outlined pretty well in the staff report. It's actually the last attachment of the staff report on the city council's item, for the 13th. So go to that, and I think it's attachment 25 or something. But yeah, if you want to read about what she was proposing, we were pretty much supportive of everything that she had proposed, but it didn't get a second. And some of the city planning commissioners weren't even there. They were, they seems like they put this on the agenda when they knew that they didn't have enough votes or something. I don't know. Anyway, they probably could have at least had a second if some of the other planning commissioners had been there.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, read Rachel Dan's. It was very thoughtful what she proposed, and we would we hope that type of motion is seen at the city council meeting on the 13th, on Tuesday.
Yeah.
So
Thank you.
and basically, we are hoping that the city council adopts alternative 1 of the EIR, which is the reduced project alternative, with option B of the downtown density bonus, but not option A.
Yeah.
So that would 8 stories instead of 12 stories.
And where do people look to find alternative number 1 so they can read a little more?
That is at the very bottom of the EIR. They put it at the so you have to scroll all the way down, and when you get to the environmental impact report, not the final environmental impact report, but the draft. So go to the draft one, and then you go down to the very bottom, and you'll see the alternatives section, and then they'll have a no project alternative, which would be if this project didn't happen at all, and then you have alternative 1 and alternative 2. So they're both reduced projects from what's being proposed. So yeah, the alternative 1 is keeping the zoning where it is now, but still having, the Warrior Stadium and still having, some of the infrastructure improvements, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Thank you. I know
Okay.
you've got a very busy schedule today, and I want to honor your time. So
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you guys.
thank you very much for taking time to be here and for all the good work you do, Frank. Thank you.
Appreciate that.
All right.
Great.
Take
Bye-bye.
care. Bye. That was Mr. Frank Barron talking with us today about the downtown expansion plan in the city of Santa Cruz. That will be coming up on the Santa Cruz City Council agenda at 7 p.m. next Tuesday. Please take some time and look through these documents, and there are many there. If you go to the Santa Cruz City Council website, click on meetings and agendas, and look for what is there for next Tuesday. I believe it is item 23. It's the first item on the 7 p.m. agenda, regular agenda. And take a look at some of those documents. In particular, Alternative 1, which would ensure that the height of the buildings would be reduced and keep it at about 4 to 8 stories, and also allow a stadium, but with certain conditions. And then the downtown density bonus, which is also attached to all of that, includes option B. We want option B, that will keep it at 8 stories in the downtown area. If you'd like to call in, please do and join the conversation. Here's the number, 831-265-5050. Again, 831-265-5050. I'm going to take this opportunity to do a bit of an advertisement here because I got here late. I usually do it right at the beginning. But I want to thank Satellite Workspace and Digital Media Center here at 325 Soquel Avenue in Santa Cruz, with the view of the horizon at the moment. Maybe not if the city council, it seems, gets all, and developers behind them get their way. But for now, it's a beautiful place. The Satellite Center is a fabulous workspace, very clean, quiet, secure. You can rent it by the day, by the hour, by the week, however it fits your needs. And I cannot speak highly enough of it. So come check it out anytime, and you can use some of the facilities here for free on the first Wednesday of each month. So we've passed second Wednesday of every month, I think it is. So that's coming up next week, and I urge you to try it out here. Satellite Workspace and Digital Media Center. We share this wonderful space with community television, another gem in our community. So today we're talking the full 2 hours about the downtown, Santa Cruz City downtown expansion plan, because this is a huge issue for our area. Many people have lived here for a long time, remember the Cooper House and all that it used to be, and while that is changed, it doesn't mean that it is a bad thing. Change doesn't mean a bad thing, but it's how it's done, how the public is brought into the process, and what is the ultimate result. Having towers up to 16, 18 stories tall with no setback from the sidewalk, and no parking, no traffic analysis is concerning to many of us, not to mention the toll on the infrastructure, the water, the sewer, and our emergency responders. So to that effect, as I mentioned a little bit earlier talking with Frank, there is an item on the 2:30 City Council agenda, number 18, on the regular 2:30 Council agenda, AP Triton's Community Risk Assessment, Standards of Cover, and Deployment Analysis. So this is the fire department's analysis of how they can respond effectively in this new landscape, if you will, of Santa Cruz City. I may add that it is moving forward that Santa Cruz City Fire, Scotts Valley Fire, and Central Fire Protection District may likely all consolidate in the future. The Santa Cruz County LAFCO on Wednesday actually approved moving forward with a $60,000 consultant feasibility study to support that large consolidation. And this study, item 18, the Community Risk Assessment, Standards of Coverage and Deployment Analysis for Santa Cruz City Fire Department, is part of that. The second hour, I'll be joined here in the studio with Miss Keresha Durham. She worked tirelessly with Frank Barron in gathering signatures for Measure M that last year tried to halt the height of buildings and also increase the percentage of affordable housing in the city of Santa Cruz. They worked very hard and were in fact my guests on Community Matters back at the time. And unfortunately that Measure M did not pass. It failed 60% approval, 40% disapproval. There, as you can imagine, were some very deep pockets in that campaign against them, which I think surprised us all. But Ms. Keresha Durham will be joining me for the second hour. So if you have thoughts about what Santa Cruz City is looking like now, please call in and talk with us about it. The number is 265-5050. I had the opportunity to take a look at this AP Triton report, and I was looking specifically for the areas of hazard. You can find this report by clicking on item 18 of the Santa Cruz City Council's agenda for next Tuesday. That's May 13th. And the way that works is when you click on the item, off on the right-hand bar, all of these reports and related documents come up, and you can click on any of them. There is a summary document, and then there is the 268-page document itself. What I think is important and maybe timely in this report relating to the south of Laurel downtown expansion plan is that there are large areas of the downtown area that this AP Triton analysis risk assessment for the community identifies. On page 90, you can see a map of the flood hazard zones, which include all of the downtown area. And there is a chance that the tsunami occurring in the city caused by a seismic event would cause $20 million in damage. Well, similar to what caused the $20 million in damage at the Santa Cruz Harbor. So there is that. Imagine how a 18-story building would sway in a liquefaction zone. Well, those zones have been identified on page 95 of this document. And again, it mirrors much to a great extent the tsunami area, flood area. Mr. Olson, you're here. Are you looking for this? Your phone. Thank you very much. So take a look at that and ask yourself, what do we want in downtown Santa Cruz? What can we really handle here in downtown Santa Cruz? Can we really expect to accommodate 16 and 18-story buildings in liquefaction and tsunami flood zones? How would they have to be built? And how would that affect having walls and walls of buildings that would direct the water down the streets? You know, what would that do? It's concerning to me. And also with these buildings, there is some risk that the fire department will not have the ability to access these very tall buildings. They have a ladder truck, you've probably seen it, but could it really reach to the top of an 18-story building, or even perform a rescue on the 18th story if all stories below were on fire? So take a look at that. Read through the through the Community Risk Assessment Standards of Cover and Deployment Analysis Report that the Santa Cruz City Council will also be considering next Tuesday. I again invite you to call in. What matters to you in Santa Cruz City? What do you want to see there? And do you go there anymore? I know people who tell me they just don't go there anymore. It's not a pleasant place to be. It is sort of a ghost town in terms of retail. And that's a problem everywhere with retail because of the prevalence of online shopping. But how can businesses expect to survive in these areas if nobody wants to come there anymore? And why do tourists come? What is it? Do they come to see a replica of the Bay Area dense, tall housing, maybe that they're trying to get some relief from? Certainly they go to our beautiful beaches and our beautiful woods. But what about the downtown area that used to be known for its culture, for its music, for the artisans that were, and maybe some of them are still there? If you're a downtown business owner, I would love to hear from you. Or if you know someone from the downtown business community, please call in 265-5050. I would like to, because we're going to spend the bulk of the next hour, unless I get a call from you, the listeners, I'm going to shift a little bit in the last 10 minutes here before our next guest, Miss Keresha Durham, comes into the studio, and we'll spend the second hour on this downtown expansion plan. I want to shift a little bit, unless I do get a call from you about this, to an event that's happening next Monday, May 12th, regarding the Battery Energy Storage System, or BESS, ordinance that is coming through in the county of Santa Cruz. The project for one of those in Watsonville at 90 Minto Road. And what's the status of that? What's the status of the other two locations the county has identified? One is near Aptos High School on Freedom Boulevard, and one is on Paul Sweet Road in Santa Cruz near Dominican Hospital. So May 12th at 6:30 at a Amesti School in Watsonville. That's at 25 Amesti Road in Watsonville. In the cafeteria, a grassroots group called Stop Lithium BESS, and again that's an acronym for Battery Energy Storage System. Stop Lithium BESS in Santa Cruz County is putting on a public meeting to help, and this is the second one, to help people continue to learn about that project at 90 Minto Road, as well as learn more about what we can do to effectively convince our elected county officials that we do not want lithium battery storage systems in our county. There are lots of other technologies available. The two largest battery manufacturers in the world, both of which are in China, are switching over to sodium ion battery for battery energy storage systems. Sodium, because they don't burn, or they do not have the extremely hazardous problem of thermal runaway that lithium technology does. And we saw what happened in Moss Landing on January 16th and continuing forward. Last week, my guests talked about that. Mr. Brian Roeder from Never Again Moss Landing talked about how the smoke plume from that extremely hot fire traveled over Santa Cruz County first and then wafted down through the Prunedale area, Royal Oaks area, and the toxicities that have been noted there. Yesterday, the Monterey County Emergency Operations Department, it has a new name, much like Santa Cruz County's response, recovery, resilience. It's another bunch of those R's, but it's the Emergency Management Department of Monterey County, announced that they are going to continue a survey of soil sampling in Monterey County, looking for further evidence of heavy metals as a result of the Vistra battery fire in Moss Landing. And they're going to be releasing that information on their website as it is made available. So watch Monterey County's website for emergency, what do they call it? Readiness, response, and recovery. That's what they call theirs. And look for those results coming forward. It all depends, the results, as we know, all depend on how the samples are taken. What I think is most missing is the effects on the people. And there are people who continue, as Mr. Roeder said last week, continue to suffer respiratory problems, skin and eye problems that are connected and signs of heavy metal toxicities, especially nickel and cobalt. So continue to pressure our elected officials in Monterey County to collect that data, to reach out to the medical professions where these people who are hurt and may not be making the connection, to at least document what they're seeing and document that on some county data bank. Santa Cruz County is sticking its head in the sand. I am very distraught to see, and did, under great duress from at the insistence of Supervisor Manu Koenig in January, the one and only meeting they've had about discussing the Moss Landing disaster, he pressed to get soil and water sampling done in Santa Cruz County, had no support from the other board members, and that was very disappointing. So these issues will all be discussed next Monday, May 12th, 6:30 to 8:30 at the Amesti Elementary School in Watsonville. That's at 25 Amesti Road in Watsonville. The group is doing this because no county supervisor is willing to hold a town hall meeting, and have not been able to really explain to any of us asking for it repeatedly why they are not. Notably is 4th District Supervisor Felipe Hernandez, who at first said in a county supervisor meeting he was organizing one, but trying to figure out who to invite and where it would be. It's been weeks and weeks and weeks since that statement was made, and still nothing has happened. So the people, the power of the people here, is that the Stop Lithium BES in Santa Cruz County group, along with Clean Safe Energy for California, another group, grassroots efforts, both, are putting on this public meeting next Monday, May 12th, 6:30 to 8:30 in Amesti School in Watsonville. We'll have Spanish translators there. The April 14th gathering, the first one that the groups organized, brought in over 200 people. And many of them were Spanish-only speakers, and we didn't quite have a translator put together that could handle the language around this subject matter, but that's been fixed now. And we have letters and petitions in English and Spanish. We're also urging people who are customers of Central Coast Community Energy to write letters, make telephone calls to Central Coast Community Energy and tell them you do not want lithium-based battery energy storage. No one, well, some people may, but most people are not against storing energy in these facilities, but it's the lithium, the very hazardous lithium, that cannot be tolerated. So reach out and do what you can. I always say, write one letter, make one call, attend one meeting, and ask a question, and you'll be making a big difference, because the power and the voice of the people, when it rises up, no matter how many or how few, it is important. The people are the fourth arm of the government. And so again, I want to urge you, relating back now to our first guest, Mr. Frank Barron, here on Community Matters. We were talking about the South of Laurel Downtown Expansion Project in the city of Santa Cruz, and that the Santa Cruz City Council will be examining all of that. How tall will it be? 29 acres being rezoned, homes being bulldozed to make room for high rises and a very large 4,000-seat capacity Warriors Stadium and Event Center with very little parking. What's the traffic going to be like? Is there water? We don't know. So stay tuned for the second hour, when my guest coming into the studio will be Keresha Durham. We're honored to have her, and she is a wealth of energy and information. So I hope you'll stay tuned to the second hour of Community Matters. Thank you. and welcome back to Community Matters. I'm honored to be your host here for the next hour. My name is Becky Steinbrunner, and I am here in the lovely facility of Satellite Workspace and Digital Media Center, located at 325 Soquel Avenue in downtown Santa Cruz, between Ocean Street and the lovely San Lorenzo River. You can rent a workspace here by the hour, by the day, by the week, whatever you need. They have small rooms for meetings if that's what you need. If you're an attorney paying a lot of money for a little office space that you don't use too much, maybe you work mostly from home, come check out Satellite Work and Digital Media Center. You can also have your mail delivered here, so you have a secure place for mail delivery. The entire facility is very clean, very quiet, very cordial, very secure, and I urge you to come check it out at your earliest convenience. You can always contact them for an appointment or just stop in during business hours and take a look around. On the second Wednesday of every month, it is free to come use the facilities and just test it out and see if it fits your needs. Satellite Workspace and Digital Media Center. We're here. SantaCruzVoice.com is here, along with community television. Now, to that end, I want to let you know that community television does televise the Santa Cruz City Council meetings, along with other important local government meetings. The Santa Cruz County Board of Supervisors, Soquel Creek Water District, Metro, Regional Transportation Commission. You can find those meetings because, sometimes you can't make it to a Board of Supervisor meeting at 9 a.m. on Tuesday. And you can watch them, and they're archived, so you can enter in a search term on your computer, Government on Demand, by Community Television or CTV, and it'll pop up, and you'll see the menu there of all the different agencies that you can take a look at their most recent, if it's posted yet, proceedings, as also those in the past. Government on Demand by Community Television. So I'm waiting here in the studio. I'm hoping to be joined very soon by Miss Keresha Durham. She goes everywhere on her bicycle. She's really amazing, and she is a teacher. We all know that teachers are really working hard always, but especially now toward the end of the year. But Keresha offered to come join me in the studio, so I have the door propped open, and I'm hoping she'll come in soon. We'll be continuing the conversation about the Downtown City of Santa Cruz expansion plan when she arrives. If you'd like to join the conversation, please do so. The number to call is 265-5050. Now that's in the lovely 831 area code, 831-265-5050. And we, pardon me, we'd love to have you here on the program. This is Community Matters, and I'm your host, Becky Steinbrunner. While we're waiting for Keresha to come, I can describe for you. Oh, I think she's here. Yes. Hello. Come on in. She's just arrived with her wonderful bicycle and panniers filled with all of her schoolwork that she has to do. Keresha, welcome. I'm really glad you could make it. And if you want to sit in this seat, it's all hooked up, if that's all right with you. Yeah. So, Keresha Durham has arrived and is getting her things put together. I want to just preface my introduction with her that she was, along with Frank Barron, very instrumental in trying to put a halt, or at least let the voters decide if we wanted very tall buildings in the city of Santa Cruz with Measure M. Would you like me to read this?
Sure.
All right. She's very well prepared, a great teacher. Keresha Durham is a local high school educator. She is a bilingual teacher, and one of her passions is environmental science and protection. She has been teaching since 1987. She earned a graduate degree from UCSC and a master's in education from Cal State Monterey Bay. She has been an environmental and climate activist for over 30 years and served in several local environmental organizations and is chair of the City Transportation Commission in an effort to increase clean and human-powered transportation. She's proud to say she sold her car to help our climate about 20 years ago. And now she happily walks and bikes every day, rain or shine. And she came right into the room here with her bicycle and is waiting here at the microphone. Keresha, welcome.
Thank you, Becky. Thanks for inviting me. And yeah, I was chair of the City Transportation Commission.
Well, thank you. That's was that a difficult appointment?
It was at the time, and still is. I mean, we were trying to get bicycle infrastructure and pedestrian. Cities that are livable have more pedestrian and bicycle friendly infrastructure, and it's still a fight in our town. Though we're a lot better than a lot of places. I recently was in Roseville outside of Sacramento, and it's just stunning because they're building over coastal land, they're building over the farmland there, and there's no space for people or bikes.
Wow.
Yeah, it's just all 4 lanes.
Wow. Well, we are lucky here. Luckier than others. So
It took a lot of work.
yeah.
A lot
Do you
of
continue
years.
to serve on the city's transportation commission?
No, I don't have time for that.
Yeah. You're
They
working
don't
hard.
have a transportation. That's kind of interesting. They folded it into public works, so they don't even have a transportation. I think they need to bring that back.
Yeah.
But you were talking
Interesting.
about Measure M, and yes, I was one of the leaders with Frank Barron and Susan Monheit for Measure M that was voted on March 2024. And I was just, earlier today, I was just reflecting on the results because only 18,000 people voted in the primary. So, it might have been a different result, I think, because that was 48% of the registered voters.
Wow.
Yeah, in Santa Cruz City. Less than half of the people. And because of the spin and the confusion that our opponents put on, repeating, just things that they knew were untrue, there was a lot of confusion, and many people just skipped that answer. It showed on the results that there were almost 800 people that skipped and didn't vote at all that could have voted for Measure M. And in a nutshell, we were giving people 2 simple, powerful things with Measure M as citizens a say and a right to vote when developers come into our town and seek an exemption from the current height limits and the size limits. Our community spent 12 years, Catherine Byers, former city mayor, said that the process to create the general plan for future planning took 12 years with a lot of meetings and input, and now it's being disregarded. And part of that input was how high do we want to build? And it was decided that downtown would be mostly 5 stories and 8 stories, which is plenty tall. The new buildings at what they call the Taco Tower, Taco Bell Tower, are at Pacific, Laurel, and Front Streets are just 6 stories. So to get a sense of that, that's within the height limit. That's fine. We approve of that, but we don't approve that no units in that building on that side are affordable. It's all market rate.
All of it in Taco Towers is market rate.
And at the time of our campaign, we estimated that units would be, the apartments would be $4,000 a month. Well, now, yes, people were looking for housing. A friend of mine needs housing, and she said the studios are $4,000 a month in that apartment complex. The small 2 bedrooms, she couldn't fit in it with her and her husband, were $6,000 a month.
Wow. So
unfathomable. And we just said that we wanted Measure M. The second part of Measure M was for the affordable units developers must provide be increased. And it was actually voted by the Planning Commission to increase affordable the percentage from 20 to 25%. So we're saying in these huge units that provide more, the large projects that are providing 30 or more units, we wanted a fourth of that to be affordable for ordinary workers, like teachers, essential workers, or restaurant workers, hardworking people. Mm-hmm. The police, the firefighters, all these essential workers need a place to live. Yeah. And we're being priced out. We can't staff our schools. I've worked for Santa Cruz City Schools, for many years, since 2001, and we cannot staff our schools.
Wow.
Because people, teachers, even our doctors, nurses.
Yeah.
My primary care physician says they cannot find doctors and nurses around here because the housing is unaffordable for doctors and nurses. Can you believe that?
That's amazing. So the question always comes, is there a housing shortage or a shortage of affordable housing? And I thought last year's Santa Cruz County Civil Grand Jury report, investigation about affordable housing and how the city isn't really tracking that very much and making sure that those who are those units really being given or provided for those who need them most, There's no data on that.
Right. And there is an ordinance that's not being followed that the city should provide workforce housing, more workforce housing. And, the housing argument for the plan that is going to be decided, I hope people show up on Tuesday, next Tuesday, May 13th, because the city council will be considering what we didn't have enough time to go over. The final draft EIR came out 2 days before the Planning Commission, and I know from being a chair on a commission, when you have a packet of material and the report was 370 pages, you need more than 2 days to really thoughtfully consider and come up with a decision on that. And so now the city council, they have pushed it through to city council and approved it with really not adequately looking at the impact. This is going to be the most impactful, significant change in our city, in the history of our city.
Yeah.
The Downtown Plan Expansion Project, which is south of Laurel.
Yeah.
And what they're looking at is to go up, they say, it's a maximum of 12 stories. So imagine the Taco Bell Tower on Laurel Front Pacific. Imagine that being doubled. But they're not acknowledging that state law supersedes the local law right now. Mm-hmm. And state law has 100% density bonus. So what could be built and what developers can build could be 24-story buildings.
Oh, my goodness.
Throughout the south of Laurel, which is 29 acres. It goes up against Beach Hill and over to Depot Park. And part of that area is like an L shape. And there are lots of affordable units. My partner works right next to the Warriors Stadium, where there are 50 independent living people with mental health challenges, but they live independently in truly affordable apartments. And where are those people going to go? And there's elderly people across the street. There's a housing unit built there that's just full of it's wheelchair accessible. It's a new facility, and these will all be demolished, including the Sycamore Street apartments, which are truly affordable apartments for a lot of my Spanish-speaking families that I've taught.
Yeah. How is the city council, do you think, going to reckon with that? What do you think people can say or write that will most touch a nerve on those topics with a city councilman?
Well, I think if people are going to write, I hope they write. I hope they attend, because even if you don't speak, it matters to see people in the audience and be, witnessing their decision. We need to fill the hall as we have and hope that they would listen to us. We haven't been very successful, but we have been filling the hall with a lot of people, urging them to have thoughtful consideration about height limits and the what direction our city moves forward. But 3 points I would say is that the affordable housing argument they're saying is not credible. That with the 100% density bonus from the state, it's called AB 128. This requires cities to approve residential housing development with 15% affordable to be built at double the existing zoning density. So they're saying 12 stories, but they can double it. So this state law, with that, it can no longer be credibly argued that the reason to upzone the south of Laurel area is to meet the city-state mandated, what they call the RHNA goals, regional housing element goals. The following general plan land use allows housing and uses allow housing already and are subject to 100% density bonus. So the downtown plan expansion compared to the expansion of residential development potential citywide due to the AB 1287, increasing the existing zoning of south of Laurel would be a significant impact on the potential of all housing development. And then there's a question that the downtown plan amendments would change the general plan designation of 3 blocks south of Laurel from high density to medium density residential to visitor serving commercial. This change is a designation that would put housing developers in competition with hotel developers. So is the real driver hotel development? They're calling that the entertainment area, the new entertainment. I love how they gave the acronym like, New York. SOLA, the SOLA area, right? We've already branded it that. So this change in designation encourages, increasing height limits from 48 feet to 85 feet in the project area would be a boon to hotel developers. Housing developers don't need the change in height limits since AB 1287 already waives these height limits for housing.
That's very interesting. I had heard vaguely a little bit about the entertainment district. So tell us a little bit more about that. It would actually take areas that are residential now out of residential. So they're eliminating housing for an entertainment, as you say, possibly hotel area.
Well, we're having a housing crisis. And I have some information from UC Berkeley. I'm a school teacher, so I like to back things with evidence.
Thank you.
And also from the Harvard Business Review. So in September 2024, recently, the Harvard Business Review did a study. It was from a chief economist and a legal director of this Open Heart Markets Institute. And they found that when we have these, the upzoning that's going on right here, and what it actually does is that, we can't just trust the market. Research from around the world shows that these permissive, developer-friendly zoning rules do not lead to any a major increase in housing supply, nor in more affordable housing. So their research found that we really need to confront the power of landlords to raise rents. In this research, they talked about online platforms like RealPage, allowing corporate developers to coordinate and higher rents. And so they can make money keeping a lower occupancy, similar to what we're seeing in the Laurel Front Pacific building there, the Taco Bell Towers. They can have it. The majority of it's over 50% empty because the rents are so extremely high. But they can still make money because they coordinate with other developers. And this has been taken to court in San Francisco, that they're prioritizing higher rents and accepting lower occupancy rates.
Wow. Wow. At a time when we are having trouble finding affordable housing.
So you see, if you go by at night, you see dark. It's mostly dark in that building, and they're still making a killing.
Plenty of money.
Yeah, plenty of money. So they recommended in this study that we rethink public governance of housing markets beyond a simplistic prescription to just free the housing market from any government regulation and assume that lower rents will follow with this. And lastly, they said we need to have a more robust planning in our cities that includes stronger government involvement in housing and even direct public provision providing social housing. So in San Francisco, we've seen they often open up buildings when they come up on the market for nonprofits to purchase them and truly make them like a whole affordable housing unit before they, sell them to another developer and a corporation.
So in our area, that could be offered to, say, Mid-Penn Housing or something, some nonprofit like that would then manage it and offer lower. Section 8 housing is partly it for people who cannot, earlier Frank was saying even the low income of affordable housing could not be, no one could afford that if they're on the streets because it's $70,000 income you'd have to have. Well, my goodness, that's not me.
Well, I think we've already made a transition into a wealthier area.
Yeah.
Just our proximity to Silicon Valley, a lot of wealthy people have moved here, and people need to understand that the affordable limits are connected to the area median income.
Yeah.
So if the area median income, is people are making $500,000 or more a year, then you're still within the low income in our area if you make $93,000. Now, beginning teachers make like $40,000.
Yeah.
So that's the very low, very, very low income according to those. And as we see more wealthy people move into those $6,000 apartments, then our whole entire area median income goes up.
Yeah. And that affects the levels of income required to qualify for these affordable units. You're listening to Keresha Durham, my wonderful guest here in the studio. Today we're talking about the downtown expansion plan coming before us next Tuesday as the Santa Cruz City Council considers all of this, including the final impact report, which was a very rushed process. And Keresha has just pointed out that the Planning Commission, the City Planning Commission, did not even see the document, very large document, until 2 days before the actual hearing. And they could have continued it. They could have continued their consideration of it, but they didn't, did they? They did not consider their continuing it to give themselves more time.
Right, and we were, the room was full of people, and I'd like to say if people do write in to the city council, I hope they do, that they say, accept the number one option in the EIR that has, the option B, which would not increase, would they can still reach their project goals without increasing beyond 8 stories. They can still provide 1,200 units. So we're trying to get them to respect, people's urging to not put in 24-story buildings when now we see through the study with the Harvard Review, that they can keep most of that empty and still make a lot of money, and it won't provide housing for the ordinary people like you and me that run our city.
Yeah.
Hardworking people that work every day.
Yeah.
They deserve housing near where they work. And more people are being forced to move to Watsonville and beyond and impact our farmland.
Yeah. And we see, I live in Aptos out in the mountains, so I see that Highway 1 ribbon both ways. People coming in from Watsonville area, and I know people who actually work at the county government building that commute from Modesto. They have friends that let them sleep on their couches a couple nights a week, and they commute because they cannot afford to live here. That's not right. It's just not right. So, Keresha, I have been to city council meetings, and people, understandably, are very upset. Sometimes people get very angry and get up in front of the podium. How much time do you get in front of the podium?
Extremely short time, unless you're a group, 2 minutes.
Yeah. So what I've observed is that if people get up and start yelling, everybody turns a deaf ear to that. How can you guide us in making effective comment before the city council next Tuesday night?
Well, I'm always a believer in diplomatic communication. I think we need to have difficult conversations with people who don't understand our concerns, and that it's really important to do some mindful breathing, take a walk if you're upset, and not to scream into a microphone. So take a few breaths, maybe have some notes. But the key message we want to provide here again is to tell the city council to tell them to vote for EIR Alternative 1 with the option B. This will give us a more livable city. There's been lots of studies by Jan Gehl and other livable city planners about human scale buildings, which they actually say are 4 to 6 stories. But we're compromising. We're saying 4 to 8 stories. We don't want to have these, what I call, rat trap 12 to 24 stories, Miami Beach, and just to think about the consequences of that is that you're fast tracking development that's being pushed through to benefit very few. It's going to benefit, if you follow the money, out of town developers, corporate profit driven real estate developers. It's not going to benefit the people who live and have helped run the city and have, contributed to this area.
Yeah. And as you say, I think it was you said that the developer, perhaps the reason all of this is being rushed is because there's a Texas-based developer that's really wanting it put through quickly. And how many local developers are there? How many local jobs would be provided by any of this? Union jobs.
So at the Planning Commission, it was April 17th, we saw a lot of local union people saying, please, hire us so we don't have to drive so far and wide into San Jose and further. And you're not seeing that. For the construction going on, we're seeing out-of-town developers. And, the city could choose, instead of the lowest bidder, or could choose to hire local people along that, to employ local people. But that's another problem that isn't happening.
Yes,
and those were the only people that to vote to push this through. I think they're believing that they'll be hired, but from the previous evidence of what's happened, they're not going to be hired.
No. Keresha, we have a caller. Would you like to accept a call from the audience?
Sure.
Judy? All right, very good. Let me see if we get Judy on. Hello, Judy. Can you hear us?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Thank you
Okay.
for calling in. Thank you for joining the
Yes.
conversation here today.
Well, it's a very significant project, and yes, they did. The Planning Commission rushed it through with 2 days to, see the final EIR. This was so insulting to the public, and I would think the Planning Commission as well. It's just we need more time. They should redo the draft EIR because it doesn't even mention the 100% density bonus. So that needs to be redone. And one does have to wonder what the big push is to get this done so quickly. Another thing, Keresha, I was just going to mention that when we know who will show up to speak at this council meeting, and it will be the construction workers or union workers who, make a plea for their, them to be hired. So we know they'll show up at the meeting, and we also know that YIMBY people will show up at the meeting. Somehow we have to expose the YIMBY, who funds YIMBY, because it might be interests that are not just strictly benevolent,
Good point.
Anyway, I will either write in, or I don't know if I was at that Planning Commission meeting, and I was so discouraged after I left. I don't know if I can stand to be at another council meeting in person, but I'll definitely be watching it and commenting. So
thank you, Judy. Thank you for bringing up the point about YIMBY, because from my experience, especially during campaigning for Measure M, there were people from the YIMBY movement that didn't even live in our area and were allowed to call in and push for development. I don't think that should be allowed, that somebody who doesn't live here, doesn't have an address from here, is being paid, most likely, from the profit-driven real estate corporate interests. And I've even read some articles that YIMBYs pay these young people to write into Nextdoor and other social media such as Reddit. So if somebody sends out a statement, questioning the heights, questioning whether there's enough affordable housing, then they'll get a litany of YIMBY comments and be very discouraged, or it will just appear that people in the community, quote unquote, in our community are not supporting, a more responsible development.
And, Becky, thank you for pointing out that fire department report, which I only read this morning, and it's too bad that wasn't available to the consultants, Kimley Horn, when they were doing their draft EIR, because there's certainly, with all the more people down there, they're going to need more fire capacity, firefighting capacity and facilities and staff. So I think the city, they are hungry for tax money, and that's what's driving this whole thing, So, they're envisioning this wonderful entertainment district that they assume everybody wants that, but no, not everybody wants that, So also I was reading that gas might go up to $8 a gallon, so that's going to put a dent in tourists coming over here. Anyway, I have so many thoughts, but trying to not go off on too many tangents. So thanks a lot, ladies. Bye-bye.
Good. Thank you, Judy. And thank you for bringing to my attention today that great report, the risk assessment. Are you still there?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a fabulous report. And that alone could be grounds for redoing this EIR.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, and so, Judy, what are your thoughts in terms of asking for a continuance, that the council not approve anything, give staff time to redo the EIR in terms of the inaccurate affordable housing numbers, and some of these very important things brought out in this risk assessment?
Right. I think, we all need to get more comfortable speaking one-to-one with our district council person and the other council people too. They are not on some pedestal. We need to speak to them, and I have started doing that, even though that's not in my nature. But this staff report about Rachel Dan's failed motion. Is that an unprecedented thing for staff to go into such a lengthy response to a failed motion? Because they sure seem to be wanting to, make their point to City Council that her concerns are not valid, and it's like their last-ditch effort to persuade council that no, we got to have this thing pass, or you're not going to have the
well,
arena,
I'll tell you,
you're not going to have the Spruce Street Plaza, and they go into all these things that we won't have, as if they're mind readers or something.
There's such an interesting dynamic, on commissions. I'll just say from being on a commission, there's usually one or two leaders that the majority will just follow, and they're usually more prepared people. I thought Rachel Dan sounded like she actually read some things, whereas the other were just going with the soundbite, status quo, trying to keep good relationships with the staff. And then there's the dynamic of like Pete Kennedy, who's definitely a bulldozer leader in that group, and people are afraid to get on, not be on his good side. So I appreciated her reasoning around that. And I was going to say, just to respond to your idea about firefighters, is in canvassing, I must have knocked on 10,000 doors. And I heard from several people who work at Dominican Hospital saying, from the west side, when there's an emergency, they can't get people to the hospital because of the horrendous traffic. So we do need to consider things like that, like road space. And we do, even though people don't want to look at it, that we rely on surface water. How many wells can we dig, and how much water can we draw off of the river without affecting the fish? It's really important that people not label people NIMBY just because they care about the environment. And in my many years of experience as an environmental activist, it's the people who live in the area that care about the area the most that are willing to stand up and attend the meetings and sit. My gosh, I must have sat for 4 hours before I was allowed to speak at the last planning commission. Those are the people that have the passion. So we need to appreciate and hold up the NIMBYs in this area that are trying to protect what we love. Is really a beautiful area with a lot of open space. Yeah.
Questioning, just asking questions and asking the commissioners, the council members, to really thoughtfully look at something. Should not be labeled as a negative action. Judy, do you have anything else you would like to add to the conversation? Thank you so much.
No, thank you. I know this is the last farmers market on Lot 4. So say goodbye to the trees.
Oh, oh my goodness.
The bulldozers are going to be coming,
Is that next Wednesday is the last farmers market where we are all accustomed to seeing it?
Yeah.
Well, thank you for your hard work on that. And thank you. Yeah. Keep up the good work. We cannot get discouraged and stop. That's the main thing. We've got to keep working. Right. Thank you, Judy.
Right.
Thanks, Judy.
Bye-bye.
Appreciate you.
Thank you. Keresha, we have another caller. Do you want to add anything further to Judy's comments?
Just your last comment. I think it's really important for people to consider natural heritage, especially as we move forward and we are confronted with the climate crisis. A huge heritage tree. There are 2 liquid ambers there. They're so beautiful in the fall.
Yeah.
And some very old magnolias that are gorgeous. And you cannot replace those with tiny little decorative trees. They will not draw out as much carbon as a well-established elder tree. And I think they did not consider, the room was filled with people speaking to not cut those trees. Some are on the perimeter of the development
Yeah.
property, and they could have easily saved them. And I have seen in countries around the world, Japan and Europe, where they go out of their way to develop around their natural heritage.
Yeah.
So that was another huge mistake, I think, from this developer-friendly, pro-development mayor.
I agree with you. I was at the, it was an event that the library held recently in that parking lot, trying to hype up the new library plan. And I stood on the corner, as did Judy, our caller here, and many other people, just, what about these trees? And looking at those liquid amber trees and having seen the plans for that library, it would be such a beautiful thing to look out through those all glass windows of the library into a tree and to have that connection with the outdoors and the shade in the summer. I don't understand the thinking here at all, and I don't understand why the habitat that those heritage trees provide for a lot of birds, a lot of animals and insects seemingly means nothing in Santa Cruz.
It's misguided. It really
It
is
is.
misguided.
Yeah. We have another caller. May I bring him on? Thank
Certainly.
you. It's John Patrick. Hello, John. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Hello, welcome. Thank you for calling in and joining the discussion here.
Oh, okay. Hopefully, I do not have verbal diarrhea during the conversation. Let's see. Our mayor, or Santa Cruz mayor, did you not read his commentary on the paper the last Sundays? Boy, I read it, and everything is rosy. Rose-colored glasses. Santa Cruz is doing wonderful. The economy is doing great. And you just wonder where he came up with that information. And has he ever walked the levee? Has he ever hung out downtown and seen the closure of all the businesses? I wonder. Oh, I can barely remember his name. Is his name?
Fred
His first
Keeley.
name starts.
Fred Keeley.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I always remember it by that four-letter word that starts with F and ends in K. Oh, okay. That's the only way I can remember his name. And then dealing with, so many divergent issues that are affecting the town. I am up here in Ben Lomond and have San Lorenzo River running by, at least for now. But with all the buildings, I just foresee, where does the water come from? And following up, I can see, we need a desalination plant in the near future because we don't have all the water to fulfill the needs of the people. It's just question mark. And then I had the chance to drive around town today, and thank God, all these affordable buildings that are going up, like he's a big proponent of one, I think, on Water Street, 200 or so affordable housing unit, question mark. And it's been pushed, the original plans are great. Well, they were feasible, but Benchmark, I think that's the name of the company, falls upon...
Workbench.
Yeah.
Workbench. Oh, our favorite company that disregards...
A disguised YIMBY group.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Anyway, and no kudos to all the divergent groups that are against the buildings because we're too divergent. Everybody has their own little issue and can't really get together a good rally and force the city council to look at real realities of what the city is turning into. It ain't pretty. Okay, that's all I have to say. And thank you, because you've described for me, or you set the boundaries of what what they call affordable housing. And what I love, too, is how they push the city needs affordable housing. Boy, come on.
Well, that's the
Yeah,
line that they want to give. And I want to say one response. Can I respond to one point about can these groups get together? I think what I pointed out earlier in this talk was that people didn't come out and vote. That of registered voters, it was less than 50% of the registered voters. So another big issue in town is for people to feel impassioned and inspired enough to actually go and vote, research the issue, talk to people, and vote. Like right now you have an important thing. You could show up next Tuesday, May 13th, and you could show up in the city council chambers and support and show the council, the decision makers, that you care about this decision. And it's like, I see the same people show up over and over again. So we need more people to care, who actually care.
You mean like Betsy?
And when I canvassed, the majority of people I talked to, which was really amazing, I just want to tell you, I didn't plan to be a campaign leader. I didn't plan to knock on 10,000 doors, but I was kind of rallied in June. It was like July, when no students were in town. We needed to get 3,500 signatures, when it was still part of COVID. This was 2023. And my God, we got almost double that. We got 7,000 signatures in the summer. So that showed me right there that people did care. And I had hundreds of people who signed up to volunteer. So there were people, but when it came down to the, walking the streets every day and staffing our booth, there in the trenches, very few people. It was like I could count them on my two hands, the people who would show up. So I encourage people to get involved, and the first involvement is to write a letter to City Council, say, that we want them to extend consideration of this environmental impact report, and if you want to, if they're going to make a decision, it should be EIR option 1 with
option B.
Option B. Yeah. So it should be. You should tell them alternative 1, EIR alternative 1 with option B, which will keep the current height limits, which are reasonable, 4 to 8 stories. They're not going to be 12 to 24 stories and filled with empty units that people can't afford. Yeah, they do use that line that we're being forced. We're being forced by the state to build affordable housing.
We're in a crisis.
That's just a line. Our numbers have been above and beyond the state criteria. They're just repeating things that are not true, that are just pro developer, pro real estate.
Can I talk to Becky for a sec?
Yeah. Sure. Keresha, thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, Becky, who is your representative now in the 5th District?
Is Monica Martinez? Yes.
No, that's 5th District. Your district, Aptos area now.
The 5th District in County Board of Supervisors, the 2nd District is Kim DeSerpa. That's county.
Okay.
But what we're talking about here today is the city of Santa Cruz, which also has districts, district representation.
Yes. But I encourage you to get involved, because what happens here, it is going to impact you, in so many ways. It's going to impact you, and it will spread, and it is spreading. We're seeing in county, unreasonable development.
Yeah.
Buildings that the actual county or the city didn't really authorize, i.e. benchmark or workbench. Expanding. Using the state mandate that they'll overbuild on the areas that the local city governments have authorized.
Well,
And in the workbench, one of the workbench heads was on the county planning commission
Yes.
for 4 years
Yes.
and got a lot of things rubber stamped.
yes,
Passed
Tim
through.
Gordon.
That's right.
And now, 2nd District County Supervisor DeSerpa has appointed former Vice President of Barry Swenson Builder to represent the 2nd District
Great.
on the Planning Commission. So,
Oh,
That's amazing.
Yes.
That's amazing.
yes. So, we've got to focus right now on Tuesday night
Showing up.
showing up.
And writing letters if you can't show
and
up.
write letters. And will I see you there, John?
it's a toss of the coin because, as you know, I'm up in Ben Lomond area.
I know.
But you can still write cityofsantacruz.com and the /council members and just send them your thoughts. You live in the area you're part of this.
Yeah.
Demand
get
alternative
through
1,
town.
option B.
Right.
Alternative 1, option B. And
Alternative 1, option B.
getting to town will be harder and harder.
And they really
Oh.
need to extend consideration in the environmental impact report to thoroughly and adequately evaluate the percentages of affordable housing and take into consideration this new information that is in their also Tuesday's agenda, item number 18 in the afternoon session, the risk assessment of downtown Santa Cruz. The maps all show it's prone to tsunami flooding and to liquefaction. So they need to assess that in the environmental impact report for this downtown expansion plan.
Yeah, they just blindly said, oh, no significant impact, so just pass it on.
Isn't that amazing? Well, we're almost out of time here, John. I'll just want to ask if there's anything else you want to add quickly.
Okay, just real quick. I was referred to take a look and reread 1984, and i.e. Federal government and local government. And I remember 2 and 2 equals 5. If you say that enough, people will start thinking 2 and 2 equals 5.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
we're critical thinkers here, so show up and I'll
We are.
hopefully see you. We ought to show up. Thank you for calling in. All right, thank you. Keresha, we're down to about our last minute and a half. I want to thank you so much for coming into the studio today and give you the last time here that we have to say anything you want to tell the listening audience.
I think if they want to go on Facebook, there's a website, Santa Cruzans for Responsible Development. Acronym is SCARED.
Yeah.
And Santa Cruz for Responsible Development is also supporting that people write in the City Council, Santa Cruz City Council, or please show up next Tuesday, May 13th, and tell them to take more consideration of this and, very impressive, historic change in our city.
This is the biggest issue historically in this city.
It is.
And will people be able to speak online? Do they allow that?
I am not sure if they're online. I'm just happy it's in person, having taught online for 3 years.
Yeah.
I think it's very ineffective. They can just not even hear you and mute you.
Yeah.
But EIR, if they're going to vote, push them to vote for EIR Alternative 1, number 1, option B.
Keresha Durham, thank you so much for your good work and joining us here today.
You as
Show
well.
up, people, Tuesday night. Thank you. We're off the air. Thank you so much.
Thanks for spreading the word.